What's going on, everyone? Thanks for clicking on this video. Today I'm hoping I can give you a bunch of great information on the X9 scooter from HX Scooters. Now, full disclosure, this is here courtesy of HX, and they sent this out to me so I could do an overview video, provide some information for everyone, tell you about my ride experience with the X9, so that's what we're going to do today. So I'll show you the X9 up close, go over all the specs, tell you about my ride experience with it, the performance, tell you everything I think you might need to know if you're considering buying the X9. So let's get going. All right, so this is the X9 scooter from HX Scooters. They offer a variety of different scooters on their website. Check it out. I'll link the website below, also a direct link to this scooter for you so you can find it easily. But the first thing I'll tell you is that this X9 comes in two different versions. So you can get the X9 Plus, which is a 36 volt, 500 watt motor that peaks at 800 watts, or you can get the X9 Max, which is 550 watt rear hub motor, 48 volt battery pack, and it peaks at 1100 watts. And that's what you're looking at here. They sent me the Max, the X9 Max. So everything I cover in this video is going to be the Max version. Really, I mean, there's only like $40 difference between the two versions. So I don't know why you wouldn't get the Max. The Plus sells for like $659 and this was $699 on the website. So for 40 bucks, I gotta believe that performance difference is gonna be worth $40. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't just get the Max, but that's what we tested in for the video today. As far as the arrival and the setup on the X9, there's really not a whole lot to do. I'm not gonna bore you with an unboxing video. I can tell you that it arrived undamaged, packaged very well, and the only thing to do really is to put on the handlebars. Once you put in the 6 little screws that hold the handlebars in place, you're pretty much done. You know, peel the sticker off the screen and take it for a ride. So let me come in and give you a little bit closer of a view here. And one thing you might notice right off the bat, at least I did, was there's no branding of any kind on the scooter. There's no stickers, there's no decals, there's no names, there's no logos, there's nothing. And I did ask about that, and they said since they are a factory direct store, you know, they're the manufacturer of the scooter. So whenever you Google, you know, electric scooter and you see scooters by various brands called the X7, X8, X9, X6, these are the guys making them. HX Scooter is the manufacturer, and then they get sent out to other brands to distribute out. So they don't put any of their logos on this when you buy from them direct. And they have made a lot of these. They've sold over 1 million electric scooters, and I guess they're known as the first removable battery electric scooter. And this battery is removable right here with these 2 points. You twist those and open up the deck, and you can pull the battery out, unplug it, and remove it, and just, you know, take it inside to charge if you want, which is a great feature to have on a scooter. All right, let's start going through this scooter a little bit, and I'll just kind of talk about my ride experience as we go along. The tires are 10 by 2.7. So they're a little bit wider than you normally see on a scooter. I think they refer to this as the SUV of scooters on their website, but they are noticeably wider. It's only like maybe 2 centimeters wider, but you do notice it. It makes it look a little bit cooler, I think. They are air-filled tires, and that is your only suspension on the scooter. It's just the air in the tires. So you're gonna feel the bumps off-road. That's one thing I can tell you from my ride experience with this. This is definitely a pavement scooter. You know, you're not gonna off-road this. Don't buy this for off-roading. I did take it on some grass and some gravel, technically off-road areas. I didn't get too crazy with it. I did get a little bit muddy, but you really feel the bumps. It really, really shakes the heck out of your hands when you're riding off of the pavement. So this is definitely an on-road scooter. Just keep that in mind if you're looking at the X9. It does have fenders, both front and back. And this back fender is also, you can, you know, step on that and it functions kind of as a brake as well. But you do have dual disc brakes. They're a 140 millimeter disc on there. They say Core Ride on them. I'm not familiar with that brand, but you've got disc brakes front and back. Cable actuated, they're not hydraulic. So it's got kind of like a triple braking system. You can use the hand brakes, or like I said, step on this back fender here, and you can use that to help bring yourself to a stop. In my ride experience with the X9, I mean, I was pleased with the brakes. They, you know, they're not as strong as hydraulic brakes, of course, but they did well. They did exactly what they're supposed to do. They brought you to a stop. They didn't pulse. They weren't squealy and noisy or excessively loud or drag or anything like that. I mean, they did well. I was happy with the brakes on it. Now the scooter does fold. So the handlebar stem folds down. Right here is the folding mechanism. You've got this little silver tab. You just slide that up and then release this lever down, and the handlebars will come right down like that, and you can see this little hook right here, which will click underneath the fender. You just push the fender down a little bit, slides under, and now you can carry this scooter. It's not crazy heavy. It's not crazy light either, though. On my scale, it weighed 52.8 pounds. So, I mean, it's a manageable weight if you need to load this into a truck or car. I don't think you would have a really big issue doing that. But let's just lift this back up and I'll show you the rest of what's going on up on the handlebars. All right, so here you can see you've got rubber grips with the palm rest. They felt nice, no problem with that. They do have a cap in the end here, so you could pull that out, maybe put in a bar end mirror if you want one mirror. Got your brake levers. This is the front brake on your right hand because you've got the throttle also on your right hand. The rear brake's going to be on your left hand. You have an integrated bell right there into your left hand, and then your display screen is in here. So if we tap the power button, you'll see that come on. All right, hopefully I got enough shade where you can see that display screen, and it tells you just the basics. I mean, it gives you the miles per hour or kilometers per hour, your battery indicator showing you how much battery life you've got left, and then the mode that you're in. So you can see that little red dot, that means I'm in sport mode. If you push the menu key there, it'll get rid of it. Now you're in basically eco mode, where it won't go very fast. Punch the menu again, you are in, I think they call it comfort mode. So again, I don't know how fast that goes. I kept it in basically the turbo sport mode the entire time. That's how I like to ride, and it is very scooter's got some pep to it. At 1100 peak watts, I mean, it goes, man. It pulls hard off the line. I was very happy with the get up and go on this scooter. All right, now there's a couple settings in the scooter that you can change, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. You just hold the menu and the power key at the same time for a few seconds, and it goes into the P settings. Starts at P0. The menu key is how you toggle through. So this will take you to P1, P2, back to 0, and then the power key is how you select and go into that setting to make changes. So P0 is for the units. If we go in there real quick, you can see it's set at 1. That's so everything's in miles per hour. If you change it to 0 by hitting this menu key, it'll take it back to kilometers. But I want it in miles, so we'll leave it there. Select it to get back out. Now if we use the menu to toggle to P1, that is the setting for cruise control. And again, it's just a 1 and a 0. You flip it, flop back and forth in there, and you know, cruise or no cruise. I always turn the cruise control off. I don't like cruise control. And then there's one more. So if you go to P2, that is the setting that allows zero start, they call it. So let's go into it. If I hit power, it'll go in. You can see I have it set to a 0. What that means is that every time I hit this throttle, the scooter is going to take off. If you change it, so let's change it to a 1. If you change that to a 1, then that means you have to kick the scooter and get it rolling before the throttle becomes active. So it comes to you set that way as a default. It's a safety thing. They want you to get, you know, get the scooter rolling before you hit the throttle, just for safety. I always take it off. I like having the throttle active all the time. I don't want any delay. Whenever I hit this, I want the throttle to be active. And there's another reason I do that as well. So if I come to a stop sign and I come to a complete stop without putting my feet down, I like to be able to just hit the throttle and take off again and not have to put my foot down and kick the scooter going. So I don't know, it's, you know, your choice. It's just great that they allow you to make those changes in here. So that's what the P2 setting is. It'll allow you to turn that off and on. But let's get back out of there, hit the power key, takes us out to the P2 setting. Let's toggle through. So there's one other setting in here that you can change. It's the P4 setting. So the way you get to it's a little bit trickier, and this manual is on their website. So if you don't want to rewatch this video, just go to the website and look at the settings manual. So you toggle this to P1, and I may have to find some way to hold the camera because I need both hands to do this. All right, so when you're on setting P1, you hold the brake and then you hold the mode key for a few seconds and it'll jump into the P4 setting. So hit the power and it'll take you into the P4 setting, and you can see I've got it set to FF, which basically means no limit. This is the speed limit setting. So when you set it to FF, it's no limit. If you toggle through using the mode here, you can see you can set the max speed to 20, 25, or FF. So that's really your only choices there. 20 mile an hour, 25, or unlimited, and which basically means 25. That's about the max speed of the scooter. So, but if you set it to FF, it just kind of tells it no limit. So that's how you change the speed setting on here. And to get back out, we'll just hit the power to select that setting, and then if you hold both of these, it'll take it out to the main screen. All right, now supplying power to this motor, we've got a 15.6 amp hour battery pack in the scooter that is inside here, and I'm gonna put up a video of me removing this so you can see how this opens up and how this battery comes out. You basically loosen the two screws here on top of the deck and pop off this cover that covers the battery. The battery has a strap handle on it. You can kind of lift it out, and there's two plugs. One that plugs in, you know, the battery power, and then another one that plugs into the controller. And you release those two, and you can take this battery out and take it wherever you want to take it. And it's pretty simple to do. As far as getting it out, I had a little bit of trouble getting it back closed because this is just so exact and so tight. I really had to kind of work it in there to get it closed. It might get easier the more times I've done it. I've only done it once or twice at this point. But just know that, take your time, get it, because you got to get these screw holes lined up nice so that it actually secures it back down. So it was easier getting that cover off than it was getting it back on. You can see your battery charging port right here, so you don't have to remove the battery. Most people are probably just gonna keep this in their garage and never take the battery out, and you just plug in the charge port right there. Now this is of course the X9 Max version, so that's a 48 volt battery, and this is, they say, a 550 watt motor that peaks at 1100 watts. There's no markings of any kind on this back wheel, back motor, so I guess I'm taking their word for it, but I can tell you from riding it, I mean, it is a really powerful scooter. They claim on the website that it'll go 25 miles an hour. I was able to get this scooter to go 23, 24 miles an hour all day long with ease. I was surprised to not see the speedometer roll over to 25. It was at 24, and I was like, it feels like it's gonna just break that 25, and it must have been at like 24.9. It didn't climb over, but 23, 24 all day long on this thing. It is a nice ride. It's got that little bit of extra juice that you want when you're on one of those 20 mile an hour scooters that really only go like 18 or 19, and you're like, man, I wish I just had a few more. Well, that's this. This scooter feels like you took one of those 20 mile an hour scooters and then gave it a shot of steroids. And it's just that little bit more power to get you up over 24 easily. I mean, this will go, there's times where I was going uphill, like a decent incline, and this was going like 21 miles an hour up the hill. So that's what you're gonna get out of this X9 speed-wise. You know, I did a top speed run, and it capped out at 24, but with no suspension on it, you really don't want to go much faster than that. There's a couple times where I wasn't paying attention. I hit some serious potholes, and it threw me a little. It didn't throw me off the scooter, but it kind of scares the heck out of you when you hit a pothole going 24 mile an hour that you weren't expecting, and it can't absorb that shock. You know, you just have the tires to absorb shock, and that's all. It also had some pretty decent hill climbability. I mean, I don't live in a really hilly area, so it's always a struggle to find steep hills. I did find one kind of long, winding, twisting hill up into this neighborhood on the Greenway, and it was about 10 to 11% grade going up that hill. I mean, we came in on the scooter going probably 20. It was going about 14 miles an hour up through most of the hill. Got to the top where you start to crest the hill, and it gets to its steepest part, and it dropped down to maybe 10 miles an hour or so. It pretty much just kind of blazed right up that hill, no problem. I was able to tackle all the hills around me with ease. They're not super duper steep, but I was pretty impressed with how well it went up that hill. And I even tried it later too, toward the end of the battery life, and it still made it up no problem. Even when I was down around, I think I was approaching 1 bar, I was down at the very last couple bars, and it still was able to climb the hill really good. All right, we talked about speed, we talked about hill climb power. The other thing you want to know, I'm sure, is battery life. How did it do on the battery life? So 15.6 amp hour battery pack, 48 volt. They say on the website that it's supposed to go, I think, 50 plus miles, okay? I didn't get that when I did the range test. I rode it till it was pretty much dead, and I rode it heavy-handed. I had it in turbo mode the whole time, going 20 plus as much as I could, without regard for battery conservation whatsoever. And I took a screenshot at the end of my ride. I ended up riding the scooter for, I think, over 2.5 hours. I was out on this thing before it finally died. And I covered, I think it was almost 27 miles that it got riding, you know, basically full power in turbo mode. So I thought it was pretty good. So, I mean, 27 miles, that's not bad out of this. Riding it, fun. in a fun way, like how I would normally ride it. And it still went 27 miles. If you know, of course, drop it down into eco or into one of the lower modes, you might get a little bit longer range, or two, if you weigh less. I mean, I weigh like 175 pounds. If you're only 100 pounds, you might get even more range out of this thing, but there's a realistic number for you. I got about 26.75, I think it was, out of this. So I think you're gonna have no problem going 20 plus. And if you monitor yourself, you might even get 30 plus out of this. 50, maybe a little tougher. And I really didn't lose much power until I had burned off about 3 bars. The battery indicator's got, I think, 5 bars. Once I burnt through 3 of them, then the power dropped a little bit when there's 2 bars left. Instead of going 24, it was only going like 21. And then once I got down to 1 bar, that's when I headed for home. And I did the rest of it in my neighborhood. And toward the very end, it gave me these loud beeps out of nowhere. It just started beeping. And I'm like, what is that? I looked down, the battery bar was flashing, saying like, hey, you're out, basically. So after that, it did the beeping noise, I had maybe a half a mile, maybe. And it was done at that point. It was only going, you know, 7-8 miles an hour, max throttle. All right, so what are some things I noticed about the X9? First thing, platform. Nice and big and wide, plenty of room to move around on. I like that. I can put the dimensions on the screen for you. Second thing I noticed was you got the motor in the rear wheel. And I bring this up because I've had scooters where the motor's in the front wheel, and they tend to give you a little bit of a burnout or a spin out when you get going sometimes. You don't really get that as much with this. I don't think I ever had the back wheel do a burnout on me. So I guess more stable in that sense. The handlebar stem, I noticed this as well. I've got other scooters, powerful scooters, and the handlebar stems, they move around a lot. They don't feel really secure. This was nice and tight and secure. And when you launch off the line, it didn't really feel like it was moving at all. So I like that feeling about it. I would say good power for the money. I mean, $700 and you got 1100 watts, almost 25 miles an hour. It's got some good pull off the line. I was very pleased with the power. It's definitely more powerful than the X7 that I was on, which was like a 20 mile an hour scooter, which I think I only got to like maybe 18 or 19. So it's certainly more powerful on the hills and on the flats and pull off the line everywhere, all the way around, really. So yes, it's got decent power. And the last thing I'll say is on-road only. I mean, it was quite bumpy when you get off the pavement with this scooter, so just keep that in mind. And before you buy an e-bike, check out some scooters. It's kind of handy to have on hand. Think about what you're going to use it for. I mean, this is great for if you're going to just buzz down to your mailbox, check your mail, buzz over to the pool, hang out with your friends for a second, or actually I find myself taking it with me when my truck needs service. I can just throw this in the back, drop the truck off for service, hop on the scooter, they call me when the truck's done, I buzz back over and get it. It's easier than the bike because I don't have to load it in the bed of the truck, just throw it in the back seat. I don't have to put it on a bike rack. I don't have to tie it down or remove my tonneau cover. So I usually take the scooter when I got to do that. All right, but I think that's all I got. Thank you to HX for sending this out to me so I could ride and test and share some information with you. Again, I'll link it below. Check it out. Check out some of the other scooters on the website as well. They have an even more powerful one than this called the X10, which does have the full suspension if that's what you're going for. And I hope you found this video helpful. Leave me a comment. If I didn't answer your question, I'll do my best to answer and respond to as many as I can. I think that's all for today. So thank you so much for watching.